We got the time locked down. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name's Corey. You can see that in the name thing down on the bottom over there. Where is it? There it is. Boink. And we got my friend JimmyD on here. We've been brainstorming after our last conversation, doing a weekly show of some kind, just because every single time we've sat down, it feels like we could probably talk for another like 3 hours. And so we're tossing around an idea to do a weekly update on the EOSIO sort of space. There's more than enough content that is going on. There's more than enough people to interview. There's more than enough projects to focus on in this space. So it's kind of what we're tossing around. So we're gonna have like a little brainstorming session. We figured we would do it live. There's also some news that we want to cover for this week. But I'm gonna still do the ChirpCast thing until we have like ChirpCast EOSIO weekly update something.
Yeah, well, I think that's the problem. You said we could talk for hours and hours, and that's usually what happens. So rather than, try to talk about everything, let's just, make a time and talk about stuff until we run out of time, but not have to worry about running out of time because we can do it again next week.
Exactly. And you'll know you can find us. We're actually going to do, I think, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's only 8:30 now, but you get the idea. Hold on. So let's do this just for a second, just because it's tradition. Okay, fair enough. We don't have to get too crazy on it. So
no, I like it actually. It's good. It gives me time to fix my hair and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, clearly a priority for both of us. Must have good hair, or at least exciting hair. So yeah, I like this idea. I like this idea a lot. And so obviously we'll start a Chirp channel. I wish more people were like up and ready for this right now, so we could like get some ideas out there for a name. I mean,
yeah, well, maybe that'll be one of the first things. I mean, personally, I'm
right?
a simple kind of person. I kind of like weekly update, but yeah,
and like EOSIO update, like we do have like a sort of specific target around the topics that we're gonna cover. I don't know. Yeah, my first show is called Coffee on the Dock, and that's literally just what it was. So like the obvious pants naming is something that I'm a little bit famous for, and entirely okay. I think that that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I've never had a weekly show before. I did ponder one time, and I thought about calling it Off Topic with JimmyD because that's usually where it heads. But I mean, it's really easy to go off topic in this space. But yeah, like you said, I think it's cool, like because a little bit more community engagement, and we can find out what all the viewers and people are watching, people are in the space are interested in. Chirp's a great platform. We can set up like a channel there where people can communicate, both before and after the shows. And for those of you that probably most of you don't know me very well, but by trade, I'm an educator. And I believe that, the best education is, knowing how to learn. And I mean, if you've got, so many amazing, talented, smart people that understand EOS and EOSIO and blockchain technology out there, there's no reason why we can't just, collectively, educate the masses. That's really what needs to happen too.
Right. And people are I think people get really, really excited about this as well. Like I just remember when I first got into crypto trading, it's like late 2016, 2017. Going out and finding the people that were talking about this stuff in real time was the best. And and again, on ChirpCast, we talk about anybody who is running an exciting channel, right? Like it's a big sort of bucket for me to basically talk to anybody who's interacting in the Chirp space, which is really fun. But I love the idea that we can do a weekly segment that's just EOSIO projects because I mean, A, there's so many of them. B, there's going to be so many interactions between Chirp and those projects anyway, very likely. I mean, we've got a Telos mine launching potentially today. On the site, which is going to be exciting. So there's going to be lots of stuff that we can do there, and it kind of organizes it, right? So if people are just interested in the EOSIO space, they're going to know they can come to us and get 3 or 4 good stories on a whole bunch of stuff and a bunch of off-topic stuff. Because I'm not scared of that either. I think that's one of the most endearing things about our conversations is that you do not know where we're going to end up, but it probably will be entertaining.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I'm always excited to sit down and chat with you. But yeah, like you said, I mean, there's just so much going on in the space. It's crazy. I mean, I can't turn on my computer without learning something new. And I've pretty much cut everything beyond EOSIO out of my purview. As of recent, I mean, I still follow other channels that tell me what to think, but but like it's impossible. Like, what did you say? 2017, right? So there
Yep.
was a handful of projects back in that day. I mean, EOS was essentially nothing. You could
I was there for the Genesis account. Like that, it literally was nothing. Like it was still in testnet and hadn't launched mainnet.
Yeah, there. So I mean, it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, a few other promising projects. A bunch of altcoins took off with the alt season, but
Yep.
I don't think there's ever been a time in all of crypto where we've had this much news, as opposed to in EOSIO. It just keeps growing. I mean, there were new chains added last month or 2 months ago.
Yep.
So yeah. So, but like some big news. I mean, I guess most people are probably pretty happy because there's that big pump today. When Bitcoin price goes up, and I mean, EOS is awesome. It's a stable coin as always, which, I make that joke, but it's kind of nice because you see some of these other main cryptos, they're actually kind of going down, and EOS is just stable against the dollar, which means it's probably losing a lot in BTC value, but it's kind of nice to have it, not be of the 2017 variety where things are just going all nuts, all over the place, all crazy, right?
Well,
I mean,
unless you're a trader, volatility for a trader is money.
Oh yeah. I agree with that, but I think we're far enough along with EOS in general that we need it to be a little bit more stable, right?
So it really is sort of shifting away, and I mean that's not good for the people who spent 4 billion USD on buying EOS. Necessarily, right? If you're bag holding, hearing that your speculative investment has turned into a stable coin, it's not good. But it, like, again, like I always looked at EOS as a decade long hold anyway, and I've been holding for 2 years, right? So like it and is it gonna necessarily moon?
So you got 8 more to go. Well, that's
yeah,
great.
I mean, I was like, it's not. And this is the thing. Like, it's funny when I was talking to Matt and Brad. We basically named the thing. This is not financial advice, even though that's all we gave. Like, the thing is, I totally give financial advice, and I don't fucking care who hears it, and nobody else cares either. And again, I'm a musician, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But the thing, like the people that start crying the loudest about EOS not mooning like crazy decided to go all in on EOS. And you could always spot them. Like any maximalist just puts all of their investment in one bucket or in very few buckets, and you can see the stress on them, right? Like it just bleeds off Twitter the whole time. And really, the main thing is you just have to have at least 10 buckets, in my personal opinion, when you're doing this kind of thing, so you can separate the risk out. And just know that if you look at Bitcoin, if you really wanted to make a shit ton of money, you were holding for a decade, not 6 months.
Yeah, yeah, or you're, figuring out how to become a professional trader or something like that. You're not just walking in off the street, because you can't get a loan at a bank and going to make $1 million overnight,
Yeah.
But I like, this is my one pet peeve in all of crypto. You hit it right on the head there. Like, for me, the maximalism drives me insane, especially, one of the reasons I fell in love with EOS actually is when I got into the EOS community, it was, back in the early days when just about everything running on EOS was a gambling dApp.
I do recall.
With the exception of like a few solid projects, like, shout out to Everpedia. Like they've been going strong since the beginning.
Grinding, yeah.
And as I got into the tribe space because I was a writer, and the Steemit space was annoying me because I didn't understand why I had to have 5 keys for one platform. It just didn't make sense to me. I mean, now you look at you look at platforms like Chirp, where you can sign in with your Google ID. That makes all the sense to me in the world. But
Thank
anyway,
you. We also thought so.
no, but like, not to get off topic, but it just drives me mad, right? Because like you said, you have all of these EOS maximalists now that are, in my opinion, sometimes even worse than the Ethereum maximalists or the Bitcoin maximalists, because they keep harping. Like, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's going on, recently with the Block One EOS VC grants, right?
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot of people who are, bitter about the fact that, Ultra, for example, has come out with a gaming chain, right? And I mean,
Right.
it's still traded on Ethereum, but it's based on EOSIO technology. And Nathan and Rami James, who were some of the, most influential people in the whole EOS space when they came out with Scatter, way back when nobody knew how to use it. They're taking heat. They're taking heat in the press. They're taking heat in the press right now from the maximalists, saying like, why don't you build this on EOS, right? And to me, it's absolutely crazy. It's like, it's two of the best developers from one of the best projects, like at its time, blowing everything else in the entire space out of the water, and people saying, no, this should be built on EOS because this isn't helping my investment. It drives me absolutely mad, man. Like it's just,
yeah. I completely agree. And like, if you're gonna be, I think if you're gonna be mad at anyone, and I'd love to hear more about the VC things. I saw the headlines, but didn't get into too many of the details with what Block One is doing. I mean, you'd think they would have separated out, as much money as they spent on the Voice.com name 3 years ago, to start, a VC group or some kind of dev collective to start building stuff out. But I guess they were too busy drinking champagne or whatever. But yeah, so the VC thing is interesting. It's good news. But tell me a little bit more. Like, are they? So you were saying that they're not necessarily going to focus on just EOSIO stuff, which again, like that to me, I mean, I love the idea of them funding, Telo stuff or WAC stuff or whatever, because it is a much bigger ecosystem than just EOS mainnet. But they should at least have some, I don't know, like they got people to invest in a speculative for-profit, and they might not want to call it a security, but let's face facts, like that's what it was. Like the buying incentive for getting EOS basically was that, right? Except, for resources or whatever, they can make a utility argument. It just seems kind of, for $4 billion worth of investment, like, fuck you.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't really know where to start. So let's just start with the VC thing. So the biggest problem with the VC thing is there was a couple community members who are, notorious for calling Block One and EOS and a lot of different projects out. And in my opinion, they're kind of notorious in a good way. There's some notorious people in a bad way, which I just kind of try to steer clear of. But basically, it came out that the first VC project on the website is not even EOSIO. It's built on Ethereum. So Block One's VC is funding projects that are on Ethereum. Now, this annoys me.
Did they say why?
No. So apparently, Dan came out with a tweet that said this was kind of news to him, which to me is kind of is like
a great start.
Which to me is kind of like rubbing salt in the wound,
right? It's like, wait, we're doing what? Oh, fuck. Okay.
And so you've got a divided community. I mean, you've got the guys from EOSphere, which is, in my opinion, a fairly well respected block producer. They're getting annoyed by things like this. Like, seriously, this is you don't even know what your company is doing. Basically, the same thing that you said. So yeah, I'm with you. But then you've got the other extremists who are saying no, EOS VC should only be funding projects on the EOS blockchain. I don't believe that. I think anything EOSIO goes. I'm of the belief that if Wax takes off, if Ultra takes off, it'll be beneficial to EOS. And I think it'll actually, it might actually come down to one of the I don't like calling it a side chain. I kind of got put in my place on a different interview that I did. So let's say the non-primary chains, right? The first chain. It might be one of those that actually takes the world by storm. I mean, if you look at like you're an artist, right? You know what's going on like with Wax. Like they've got some amazing stuff going on there. I mean,
yeah, I mean, what is it? The 15th now that we're releasing the single that I got to collaborate on with uplift.art. And if you're listening to this, if you haven't signed up to get updates yet, go to uplift.art, throw your email address in there, and you'll get a bunch of freebies and NFTs and be first on the list for a bunch of stuff. But yeah, so I mean, Wax is doing a bunch of stuff besides that, right? I mean, obviously they're the I mean, I've been focused mostly on Atomic Hub for their NFT releases, but that's not even the only one. Like they're doing some real volume, and it's a real use case, right? I mean, Nifty Wizards is blowing up as like this psychotic, freaky Telegram game that's like rife with NFTs. That like it's legitimately they're grinding out a ridiculous amount of sales every week, and people are having a blast with it, right? Like just they're having a lot of fun.
Nifty Wizards reminds me of like that kid who goes into the that kid who goes into the bowling alley after they come back to their hometown after they've left, and they walk in, and all the young hip kids are sitting in the corner playing their video games and on their portable gaming devices or their cell phones or their iPads, and that kid, he comes back and he walks to the corner and he dusts off the old like
D&D box.
Yeah, like the old Street Fighter game, and he starts challenging these kids to play and stuff. It's awesome. Like Nifty Wizards is really cool. The fact that it's not like I'm struggling for words here because I don't want to put it down, but the fact that it's like a game on Telegram just blows my mind. Like it's
lo-fi, like, and I love being connected to it as much as I can, but like it's more of a fascination thing. Like, and again, like I think that Kurt has basically looked at it like I'm going to deconstruct down to the simplest form of a video game, right? And so he's basically like going from that step that, and I think like Netflix had a good documentary on this, and I watched it. I know that he did as well, and you can sort of see it in what he's doing with Nifty Wizards. He says, okay, like going from D&D, which was this rich world building, story centric, imagination heavy, community based thing. That people, that exploded, right? Like it got a lot of attention and people's energy behind it. Moving that to a video game that was totally crappy, but people totally loved it. And of course, now we have Skyrim and all that, and the whole expansive sort of RPG genre, or whatever, right? So he's literally focusing in on that cusp, trying to break everything down to its simplest pieces. But yeah, I mean, I like. I can't get into it for the life of me. I've tried so many times, but people dig it, like they really do. And I think it's an amazing way to explore that the NFT sort of functionality where you can program these ownable items to actually do stuff. Whereas all you're going to be able to do with my Bitcoin bull single is hold it for posterity and maybe sell it to some weirdo in 40 years.
I've got. Sorry, you kind of threw me with that selling to some weirdo in 40 years. Yeah, okay, yeah. I live in Asia, so there's a lot of 40-year-old
weirdos. Okay, fair
enough. But yeah, like I like it, and so actually that was one of the other things I wanted to ask about as well. Like, so just before I jumped on with you today, I was in Telegram and I saw what's his name, the Dust. Have you seen it? The new Blockchain Heroes card?
No.
Oh, dude. The Dust. I can't remember his name. Are you a fan of Blockchain Heroes?
I sure.
Okay. Yeah,
I respect it as a model. Like I have a few of them. I haven't got into it, but they're clearly kicking ass.
The Dust Weaver. The Dust Weaver, and it was posted by Kurt actually in the channel, and the Dust Weaver is pretty cool, man. I
have it right here. Please hold.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure if this has anything to do with Nifty Wizards and Dust.
It does. The bad crypto guys hold a dramatic amount of dust, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wasn't entirely sure about that. I could only assume.
Cool. I'm probably actually going to pick some of these things up because I have
Yeah,
a
I grabbed a couple before.
ridiculous amount of dust.
And it's really cool because it actually reminds me of
Cool.
of Genesis, which was the first card, in the series. It's got that almost a similar look to the Genesis character in a way, right?
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I'm starting to get really excited about and again, and this is one thing we should maybe do, because again, we're talking off air about, I really want to target people that are just getting into crypto or who aren't not in crypto at all, right? Like to understand that there are many ecosystems in crypto. We're focusing on EOSIO and all the projects there, and it's an interesting way to get into the space. So Dust is a cryptocurrency that got launched on the Wax blockchain, and the Wax blockchain is basically based on EOSIO. It's all the same stuff, the same software, but it's a different blockchain. And Nifty Wizards needed a currency that it could play around with. So Kurt minted this cryptocurrency called Dust, and then figured out how to connect that to Telegram channels, where every single time you comment anything in a Telegram channel that is activated as a Dust mine, you earn 1 Dust. And he's set it up now so that other Telegram channels, other projects can become Dust mines as well. And there's now hundreds. So hundreds of Telegram channels where every single time somebody comments, you're basically, that person is earning some Dust. Interestingly enough, the person that is running the Telegram channel is earning 1 Dust for every comment as well. So there are now some legitimate whales in the space. So I think that's an interesting clue as to where Chirp is going, right? Because not only are you going to be able to at some point, run Dust as a cryptocurrency that, people that post in your channel are receiving, but we're testing Telos first, right? So large projects, small projects, side projects, as many projects as we want to partner with on the Chirp platform are going to be able to incentivize social engagement with basically little faucets for people that are coming in and contributing to the community, which I think is, the whole thing is, it just started as a lark, right? Like Nifty Wizards, like, not really. It kind of started as a joke. Dust, I think, for sure started as a joke, and now Bad Crypto's running with it, and Kurt's going mad with it, and a lot of it, I think, is, Kurt works like this a lot. Like, he's just testing out the functionalities to see what works, right? To see what people will engage with, what they're going to get excited about, and what will scale.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder about him, to be honest.
Believe me too. The election's coming up. Sweet Jesus.
No, let me. So I've had like a few conversations with Kurt. I've had, on projects that we've had mutual affiliations with, and similar to this, would just end up shooting the shit for an hour, right? But non-recorded. And I always think about Kurt. I always I like the way that he thinks. I think I like the way he thinks, but I don't know, because I don't really understand the way he thinks. It kind of seems to me like, if it looks like something that any other business person or any other consumer would be interested in, Kurt walks away from it. and he creates these genius projects out of things that you would think wouldn't work. Like, does that make sense? Like, he's so outside of the box when he brings these things, from my humble opinion. He's so outside of the box when he brings these things in, that they look like they're cutting edge and amazing. Like, I mean, how many people thought of like the idea of like even Chirp, the original Chirp when it originally launched, right? Like, how many people would have looked at that and said, no, this isn't going to work. People aren't going to pay to post comments. And they're right. 100%. These people were right. People are never going to pay to post something unless they can get more money back. But the genius in this, in my opinion, the genius in how Chirp was organized, in my opinion, was the fact that the creators of the channels are the ones that are getting a small kickback from it. It's it's perfect real world business on the blockchain. And unfortunately, 99% of the time, blockchain projects are so disassociated from real world business that they don't even understand basic business dynamics. And we wonder why blockchain hasn't taken over the world yet.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. And I think sometimes when you know, because I have a tremendous amount to learn from Kurt. That's one of the reasons why I decided to sign on to be, you know, a minor co-founder of the platform and to, you know, work on getting the word out on it. I'm very confident that he can boil all of these things down to principles that you might find in like Ray Dalio's principles, for example. And they'll be like Kurt's on their own. And we should actually, like, I would love to see like a cogent list of them. And I think one of the reasons why he ends up in these spaces that are not, you know, quote unquote mainstream, even for crypto, which is like already not, you know, mainstream yet, is if everybody else is doing it, there's no competitive advantage. Right? Like you're not going to be in a situation where, you know, you can necessarily build a better mousetrap and you know, get in there. And again, you know, there's times when we break that rule. Like we're building another social media platform, and competing in that space is insane. Like that, you know, you're a mite on the back of a whale, you know, trying to gain subtraction. Sorry. You know, but there's key things that when we start adding in the specifics that we can do that nobody else is doing or has done, I think that's where things are going to get really, really interesting.
And I would say in that case, it's a bit of a different thing. Like I'm only speculating here, but I would say in the case of a social media platform, I don't think Kurt's expectations were ever to take down Twitter. I think they were probably,
no, they're very much not. You're totally right.
They were probably just to have a social platform that he can do what he wants to do. I mean, I'm like that in my own areas of expertise in life, right? Like, I, you know, when I write, I've said to people that I write for at points in time, no, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And they say, why? We're paying you. And I'm like, no, I don't want to write because I want to write what I want to write. I don't want to write what you want me to write. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't agree with your model if I don't agree with what you're doing. And I think sometimes like we get lost in the crypto space with this. And yeah, so I really like respect Kurt and everything that he does, but like you said, like who would have thought that a Telegram game would work? Like a Telegram game, like this is so old school, like Dungeons and Dragons.
Legit.
It's perfect when you have the whole world is looking towards DeFi and these other things, right? And then you have, you know, in my opinion, the geniuses in the space are looking at the people in the space and what they want. There's a big differentiation between that, right? Like, yes, we want to onboard the masses, but until they're here, why are we building products that nobody in the space is going to use?
Yeah, that I've been ranting about that for quite a while, and this is where, you know, getting into this space, and I think we're moving into this now, where we can start building things on the blockchain and with crypto and cryptocurrency, like games or like Chirp, that. I mean, the UX is catching up really quickly, but the whole point is like people will just use them. It's not crypto people that will use them. Just humans will be drawn to them. And we spent a lot of time thinking about this. And I think that what you were talking about with the founders of Scatter, was it those people that started Ultra?
No, they didn't. They didn't start Ultra. Ultra was started by a different, you know, group.
No, but like the Scatter people started something or whatever.
The Scatter guys, they left Scatter. I mean,
right.
And they moved over there, and they are working, you know, with that team. They're part of that team now. They've reported all of their energies over to that team. Okay. And
so, yeah, so basically the what I was trying to get at is we have internal discussions about, you know, we were going to mint coins onto a blockchain. And so we were deciding which one to do. And we actually were thinking about EOS mainnet because stability and longevity is really, really important to us. Having had the links chain basically, you know, yanked out from underneath us when we were in sort of early beta, and you know that was a possibility, but we're making that decision for us. right? Like this project, what it means, the community that's going to derive around it. At no point are we like, hey, maybe we should put it on EOS so that EOS bag holders will be happy. And no one else is doing that either. And they shouldn't, right? Like, and this is where the resource models that could have been fixed quickly and weren't, like the every project that's coming out, they have to make these decisions for themselves. And they, it will be to their detriment if they do it dogmatically, right? If they're doing it sort of from an ideological point of view, as opposed to how are all these pieces actually going to fit together so that we can scale and make something that is going to be amazing and useful.
It's funny because you're hitting on a lot of things there. Did I ever tell you I'm a permaculturalist?
You did, and that's one of my favorite things about you.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, a permaculturalist is someone who looks at nature and looks at what the land or the minerals or the resources can provide, and then works that into their design. So, in the West, a lot of time we just flatten everything and we try to grow corn, and it doesn't freaking work. We got to throw chemicals into the soil. It doesn't work, right? Yeah. One of my favorite videos is like this guy called the Gangster Gardener, and he's from South Central LA, and he goes on this rant about how he's got to drive for an hour just to get fresh fruit, and he takes over the divide between the sidewalk and the road, and he plants a garden. He plants strawberries, and of course kids are eating them. Kids are eating the tomatoes, and he kind of goes on to say, like, I put them on the road so that people could eat them. Like, I'm not angry at you for eating them, right? Like, I'm not angry at your daughter or your son for eating them. And basically his bottom line is, if kids grow tomatoes, they eat tomatoes. And as a permaculturalist, I resonate with that, because my bottom line is, like, I like tomatoes, but I'm not going to waste the resources growing tomatoes. If the location's not right, I'll just go buy them at the store. Right.
Yep.
And so when I think about, blockchain, and I think about design, it drives me absolutely insane, because like you said, you are building something that you want to build on EOS for yourselves. You're a company in a way, right? I don't care how decentralized you are, you're a company. Every single project that's working on blockchain is a company.
Yes.
And the key principle of permaculture is essentially stop complaining to the world about the fact that the environment is shit. Stop complaining to the world that we're all going to hell in a handbasket. Stop complaining to the world that, it's impossible for us to survive unless people change. Instead, build a model for change that works. And this is the problem with most of blockchain, in my opinion, right now, because the developers are out there busting their asses. The projects are out there doing great things. But 99% of the people who are in blockchain bought into blockchain with no development knowledge, no business knowledge, no technology knowledge. They bought in under the premise that they're going to hold this for a year and become a millionaire.
Right.
Because of YouTube personalities who went and did that stuff. So yeah, I'm completely in the same boat as you. Like, let developers do what they want to do. I mean, we were talking about Block One a little bit earlier. That's a little bit of a different fish, right? Because you've got someone who is, was funded, through a crowd sale, essentially, right? But like 99% of these projects, the same thing happens. People buy into the project. The project, spikes, it loses value, and people get angry because they didn't make money. It's like, where is the responsibility for that, right?
That's it. Well, and it I think Kurt's been watching this for a long time, and it's the point where he hates markets now.
Yeah.
Like, if you buy anything and then expect to sell it later for more money, like that makes him nauseous. And I'm like, well, you just described like literally all of crypto and Wall Street and the whole thing, and it drives him bonkers. And I think hopefully we can, which is weird, right? Because he's like the libertarian capitalist, and I'm supposed to be the lefty weirdo, and I'm like, no, markets are good, right? which is an interesting philosophical thing, but I think it puts him constantly in the position, and he does this to himself, and it's on purpose, and I think it's really valuable, of saying, okay, I want to make a thing that works, that does a thing that is valuable, that is useful, not I want to do a big raise. And then be on the hook to a bunch of investors that if it doesn't work out instantaneously, it's going to work. And this is the thing: like tons of people have lost money in crypto, and I haven't seen an analysis or done an analysis myself to really crunch the number on this. But I would put money on the fact that the success rate of crypto businesses is probably exactly in line with the success rate of normal startups, which is dog shit. Right? Like if you want to be investing in the startup space, you're invested in like 1 to 200 projects with the hope that one of them will go Twitter or that one of them will go Uber, right? And investing any other way is just irresponsible. And so like the watching the number of things that have kind of spiked and failed in crypto, it's actually not abnormal at all. It's completely normal. It's just now it's been democratized and opened up so that everybody can play in this space. And to your point, they're not taking responsibility. That's why, to invest in round one, offerings in, Silicon Valley or wherever, you need to be an accredited investor and have, $250,000 liquid. And that's kind of how they decide, okay, are you smart enough to invest in these spaces? And so it's been quiet, right? You don't hear about the things that fail all the time because there isn't like a throng of people that are just investing them in, ranting about it on Twitter the way that we can now do with crypto. So I think, the more talking heads that are out there instructing people or incentivizing people or educating people to trade, consciously, intentionally, and with the full knowledge that the vast majority of these projects fail and that's okay because this is an experimental space, will be better.
Yeah, it's almost like the crypto space is like we adopt these mantras, right? Like how many times have you heard don't invest what you can't afford to lose? Where else in the world do they say that?
Silicon Valley in the startup space, right?
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't realize
yeah, absolutely. Tim Ferriss actually speaks to this really well. If you Google him and startup investing, he's talked about it. He's talked about it a lot, and he'll flat out say like you're in a minimum of 50 projects, and these are people that not only is he researching them, way up the wazoo, and they're credible people who have built projects before. And Silicon Valley has a much longer and more sort of storied success rate now or whatever, right? Because all these giant companies have come out of there. And he still expects to lose 49 out of 50 times, right? And not lose a little bit, lose basically almost everything in these projects. And, if you pick one that does moon, frankly, then that balances it out, right? If you're invested early in one Twitter, you're kind of golden. But he's gone through, and they don't talk about this, but he's gone through 49 companies that have gone away, that have completely and totally gone away. And he's not out there saying like, oh, like turtlenecks wazoo.com fucking failed. Oh, you fucking scammers, right? 'Cause he's a fucking adult.
Yeah. I have one question actually.
74.
How the hell did you pull that off? How did you take us all the way around that whole little journey around the mountain path only to get back to the fact about EOS Maximus? Because essentially that's what they are, right? These EOS Maximus or Bitcoin Maximus or Ethereum Maximus are the people who only invested in one project.
Yep.
And so
yeah, you can tell.
It's funny though, because like you don't find people in EOSIO beyond the EOS chain that have only invested in one project.
No, that makes sense. Well, and you think about the diaspora, right? I mean, I think there was a couple of we're not calling them side chains anymore, alternate chains, sister chains.
You can call them whatever you want.
Brotherly love chains. Anyway, I took that a little too far. So I think there's probably like a sociological experiment that got done, not on purpose, but we can sort of look back on it. The people that stayed dogmatically and ideologically attached to EOS, right? And it's not like EOS's issues around CPU and everything are unsolvable. They're totally solvable. It's just software, right? The governance is just going to be slower and has clearly been slower. We'll see how all that stuff works. But there are people that were like, okay, well, I need this functionality for my business, for my project, for my community. I need it right now. So I'm going to go build it.
Mm.
And so the people that think that way did it, and they're gone. And the people that
yeah, exactly, 100%. And so Wax did it, Ultra did it. Telos kind of did it. Telos kind of did it, I guess, but they did it for the different reasons. They did it for governance. They didn't agree.
But governance is one of the biggest issues with mainnet.
Yeah.
Right. So, and like these other companies have sort of gone startup governance, right? Like Proton is not having a big, huge, governance issue up front because they're saying, okay, we're going to run it as a dictatorship early on and sort of like kind of go out to community when it's a stable scaling project. But I think it's smart, right? Like, Chirp is doing the same thing. We're constantly thinking about ways that we're going to be able to empower the community to, run the evolution of it, but not early, right? Because we need to be nimble. We need to be able to make mistakes and correct them quickly. And that I think is something that hopefully Telos is doing correctly. But that governance issue on mainnet, it's hugely important.
Yeah. So, and from my experience in the few DACs that I've been involved with, like that's a big issue because once you open things up to the DAC, it takes forever to do. Like, not as long as it takes, EOS to do shit, but it still takes a real.
Yeah, it's more deliberate, right? So you almost want to get, in my opinion, anyway, you want to get a project or a blockchain to a point where, it's got a momentum to it. It's got a sizable community. It's got a geometric amount of resources, and it's just working, right? So it's working. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to. It's already growing. The community is fantastic. Everything's, and then there's a big decision we need to make, and that's going to decide. Do we go this momentous direction or this other momentous direction? And it's like turning a ship, right? So it's like. Maybe the way to think about it is you're on a giant ocean liner, right? And it's not going to turn quickly. And that's basically what the DAC is. But getting an ocean liner steering wheel on a 30 horsepower motor speedboat is probably not super smart. Was that analogy too weird?
No, I might have got it.
That's how an analogy has worked perfectly. Maybe
I live by a river, and I used to be a lifeguard, so I think I kind of can understand that water metaphor. I mean,
okay, all right.
But I've never driven a speedboat.
Well, and 30 horsepower isn't even a speedboat. That's like a dinghy. Yeah. So it seems like a good opportunity, that rant seems to have played itself out. So let's not beat it to death. To bring up my next point. So some kind of big news, really, realistically speaking, with the whole PayPal thing and being able to accept and use Bitcoin. And I saw a couple people that had issues with it. They said kind of like, this isn't really going to be a big deal. I mean, it might not be a big deal, but in my opinion, it's like how many millions of users?
Yeah, and so like in my opinion, it's like kind of a nice segue because you're connecting cryptocurrency, digital currency with millions of users, but not only millions of users, but millions of users who are already used to transacting digitally.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. These people are used to just being able to go click on their phone and having numbers go from account to account, right? And so, that's the immediate target audience for Bitcoin anyway. I mean, I think you can track the price of Bitcoin to the number of active wallets and the number of transactions per month with an alarming clarity. Like almost nothing else matters. The number of people that are actually holding it in active wallets that say have been touched over the last 6 months, and the number of active transactions that occur in a month. you'll be able to track that pretty regularly with the price. And so putting Bitcoin on, into the attention of tens of millions of new people, when, if I'm not mistaken, there's like 25 million wallets, maybe 30 million wallets now, total for Bitcoin, is ridiculous, right? That has the potential to, over time, as it percolates into that ecosystem, double the price, which, I mean, we're looking at a bull market that should be coming in towards the end of 2021 anyway. So, it makes sense. And on top of that, like, I think we're seeing a race. Like, one of the other things that happened over the last couple of weeks, I think Square started like holding part of its cash reserves in Bitcoin. Some other companies have done that as well. And let's say if there's 10 or 20 that get onto that train as we go into this bull market, they're all going to look like raging psychotic superheroes running into late 2021, and that's going to create a race. At some point, the dollar is going to have a problem. The normal world markets are hyperinflated right now with a ridiculous amount of hot air. And so, I think they're setting it up to be an example, and then it's going to be a race to basically say, like, how many people are going to, you don't want to be last, right? Like musical chairs, where companies are going to want to do that. And then this is one of the things I think we kind of touched on a little bit. Like, Bitcoin's story is a lot better than Bitcoin's reality, right? Like the ethos behind it. I mean, I'm sold. Right, like the decentralization and untouchability by governments, and. But it's not, though, right?
I'm not sure if I really like. I'm a philosopher and a historian, so I like that. I like the premise behind the story, but I mean,
I don't think it's true anymore.
I really don't. I don't know. I don't know who I trust more. I don't know whether I trust the bankers that I know now. I mean, if you would ask me 3 years ago, my answer would have been, I definitely trust the bankers more than than the cartel of Bitcoin miners that's about to take over the world.
I mean, or at least that plausibly, and assuming, and again, like, I think Bitcoin is DOS, right? I think it bootstrapped an entire change in the way that we think about what money can be, which is a dramatic historical change. I'm always going to own some Bitcoin. Caveat, right? But there is a cabal that owns Bitcoin and is mining the vast majority of it and can change it right now. That is a fact. It's not decentralized, period. But the whole story behind Bitcoin requires that they never let you think that it's a cabal.
Well,
right. So if they did change it, it like the core story, the value proposition is probably better than story. Like, I think about things in that term, but the core value proposition is that it's decentralized and untouchable and unmutable and unchangeable, and this genius architect that lives on the internet that cannot be changed and is just like a human sort of source of value now, right? Which I think is a beautiful story. Like, I'm in for that. They can't do anything to disabuse anyone of that notion. And so they probably won't. Whereas the banks can and do break the law all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
The Panama Papers coming out. There's a podcast that came out. I want to make sure that everybody hears about this. So I'm just going to take a couple of seconds to do this. But based on the Panama Papers, the FinCEN files came out just recently. And it's a podcast called Suspicious Activity. BuzzFeed did a ridiculous amount of reporting on it. And it's basically where, the number of banks that are knowingly, doing money laundering and basically doing all the things that people say Bitcoin is for, right? Although no sane person would ever do that with Bitcoin because it's completely trackable, you fucking morons, right? The banks are worse, right? Like, as somebody, like, I'm going to criticize Bitcoin because I don't think it's the be all end all. It's really not. Something out there is getting built right now that's going to be much bigger than Bitcoin inside 10 years. Like, I think that's just an incontrovertible fact because Bitcoin's not going to scale. But the story of Bitcoin got us all here. So I think that part's always going to be critical, and they're never going to do anything to fuck with that myth because they can't, or they'll be screwed.
Yeah, so I've been sitting on this for about 10 minutes. Nice rant, by the way. I'm a really big fan. I used to have, I used to have a rant club, called the Smokers Corner. But yeah, anyway,
I see what you did there.
I wanted to ask you a question before you went off on that rant, and now I even want to ask you more a little bit. But I agree fundamentally with almost everything that you're saying, except I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe Bitcoin might always keep its store value, right? But I've been pondering this idea, there's only 21 million Bitcoin in the world. And the narrative goes that a few million are already lost. We don't really know what happened to Satoshi. He's got a bunch. So the guess is somewhere between, 18 and 20 million, but probably closer to, 18 million that are still available, right?
Agreed.
There's 42, what is it? 42 million millionaires in the world? Or, is that something? Does that sound about right?
I think that's about accurate. Yep.
So there's not
100 million.
There's only enough Bitcoin for every millionaire to have one Bitcoin, which is the bullish selling story of why you need to buy and own Bitcoin now, because you're ahead of 99.9% of the millionaires.
Which suggests that's in 1998.
Yeah, here's what gets me though, right?
Yeah.
If even 100 of those millionaires decide that they missed the boat on Bitcoin, they're just going to invest in EOS or Wax or shitcoin chain or Dogecoin and make that the new world currency.
Honestly, and this is the thing, and nobody wants to talk about this. So I'm really, really excited we're on the same page here. So we're going to piss off all the same people together. There is almost as good of a story logistically to buy Dogecoin as there is to buy Bitcoin. And that's what are you even talking about, right? And so
stuck in this, if you're not stuck in this,
right. And this is the thing, and I think again, another sort of sociological experiment being done, just de facto, is that when you are in a counterintuitive or counterculture idea like Bitcoin, like when you first hear about Bitcoin, you're like, you can't do your own money. Governments will shoot you in the face, right? Like everyone, I think, goes through that moment where they're like, that can't be happening, right? And it is, and that's amazing, right? And so people get into that, and then you go and talk to your family about it, and you look like an idiot to them because there's no way, right? Like, what does Corey, the freaking guitar player, know about freaking finance? And 5 years ago, nothing. So
I'm the one that worked for 40 years and have a pension fund, and collect my money, and like fucking young people, they're lazy, they don't do shit. This is why the economy. No, this is not why the economy is going to crap, man.
No, it's not. It's the banks. And seriously, any tiny research into that. But so I think it does a thing that I think you can see in any other situation where you have communities, like a small community that has an idea that starts trying to express that idea to everywhere, to a lot of resistance. That community, that group becomes very, very insular, right? We get very, very used to defending that idea a lot. And we're the type of people who will, be open to a new idea and then defend that idea against literally the rest of the world. Yeah. And so I think the net result of that for some of us is this maximalism, where you get this tiny little thing that becomes a cult status, and the way that communities work, the way the human mind works, the way that pattern recognition works, the way that sociology works, is that you end up having a few of these people that just get stuck in that pattern of, no, Bitcoin is fantastic and therefore must be fantastic, and anything that is counter to that will cause enough cognitive dissonance to kind of put them in a trap.
So I wanted to say this earlier to you, but I didn't get it out, and I'm not sure why, but it came back again, so I'm going to say it. I kind of feel like the EOS maximalists are almost the ones, this is a gross, blanket statement that probably doesn't apply, but I just want to say it anyway. the EOS maximalists are kind of the ones that, you know, heard about how great Bitcoin was, heard about how great Ethereum was, and didn't really get on that boat and decided to buy into block one. You know,
and understandably, right? I mean, the whole idea is like EOS really can be an Ethereum killer, full stop. The problem was the governance didn't work fast enough, and they made it open source, which is fantastic. And now you have Wax and Proton and like EOSIO, which I think is kind of fun. I mean, one of the reasons why I'm excited to kind of focus in on this as our little weekly update, EOSIO could destroy all of them as a family of blockchains.
If how we're conducting this whole show is any indication of, you know, where we're headed with this, I think that we need to just call the show "Pissing People Off."
Maxi killers.
No, because here's the thing, right? Like I'm a you know, EOS to me, this is gonna get us in a lot of trouble. EOS to me is like Jesus, man. Like, you know, EOS, they're kind of like Jesus because, like, you know, if you actually read back in the Bible, okay, I'm not debating religion. I'm not debating Christianity. I'm not debating anything. This isn't a religious thing. I'm a philosopher, right? Like, I look at history. I look at philosophy. Find anywhere in the Bible where Jesus actually says, "I am the Son of Man. I am the Son of God." He never says it. I mean, according, you know, provided my translations are right. I don't read Hebrew and shit, so I don't know, right? But he never says, "I'm the Son of God." He says, "I'm the Son of Man." You know, he says, "I'm the prophet. I'm going to lead you to a better tomorrow." He says all that great stuff, right? Same thing with EOS and Block One. EOS and Block One never said we're the Ethereum killer, right?
Right.
Like, they never said that, right? You know, and so we don't really. That's a really weird analogy I just made, actually.
No, but I think it's fair. I always think of maximalists as, I mean, there is the same kind of, you know, as, like I used to argue with people that were religious. I don't anymore because it's not fair or useful.
Yeah, fair enough. It's not fair. On any level, on their level.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and again, like arguing with maximalists isn't either, because you're basically, hey, you know, Bitcoin is less decentralized than EOS. Like they get mad. Like you basically just said, like Muhammad is a toaster oven, right? Like it whether it's, you know, Jesus or any other religion, they get super offended when you try to poke holes in their myth.
I kind of wish,
because that's the defense. That's how that myth can exist in a world where the facts are contravening what that mythology is actually trying to believe in.
I kind of wish you would have said Buddha's a toaster oven, because I could have ran with that.
I mean, and honestly, like Buddhists would be like, yeah, maybe. But that's why it doesn't work, because Buddhists are just cooler.
I wouldn't say cooler, but yeah, I mean, so I think, like, yeah, we got a little bit into the ether there. But
that was a long trip down pun lane.
A little bit too long. But my point is, so I wrote a paper once where I thought about, like, bad fashion, right? And I was thinking about, like, how we learn shit, right? And, like, colors are interesting. When you think about how people learn colors, they're really interesting, because, like, you know, you can learn mathematics in various ways. You can understand science in various ways, or language, you know, people learn in different ways. But colors, everyone learns them universally in the same way. Somebody points to something and they say black,
right?
Or they tell you that an apple is red, or they tell you that a pumpkin is orange. There's green apples, and pumpkins in Japan are green as well, by the way. So I don't know what the hell people are talking about. But anyway, they point to something and they say, this is red, this is blue, this is green, right? I mean, what you see as red, I could potentially see as green.
Yep. Like,
right?
Just physiologically.
Yeah. And so, like, this was my my whole report was about, you know, why people have bad fashion, because, you know, by default, they're born into color blindness. They think these colors look good together, but they see something different than I see. So when they look at them,
like, as somebody who, like, I'm sort of like a fashion agnostic, and not because agnostic is too kind to me. I literally have no idea, right? Like, and it's not Like I can see brown, I could see blue or beige or whatever, and or yellow, and like I'll just like throw stuff on because it's what is on the top of the pile. And like my wife is trying her best, failing but trying her best. We'll say like those colors don't match, and I literally like, what are you talking about? This literally doesn't make sense to me at all that there would be any kind of coherency to that. Whereas if I hear a chord, which are 2 or 3 different notes that fit together beautifully, that makes so much sense to me that hearing a not chord is like fingers on a chalkboard, right?
Yeah,
like,
so that's interesting, right? Like, because that you just proved me wrong. There's another sense in that. Like, I once watched a documentary on people who could see the colors of music.
Synesthesia is why good drugs exist.
But you're right. Like, music's another thing, right? Like, people who understand music, they understand it. People who don't understand music, they just say, "Oh, I like it," or "I don't like it." Right.
Right. Yeah, it's just going to give you a good feeling or a bad feeling. And this is the thing. Like, I don't know if fashion or if the physics of light and human brains work in that same way, but it's at least conceivable to me that that's possible, right? Like where people could see colors and it causes that sort of resonance that they go together in such a way that it's sort of mathematically pleasing to the brain in some way that I just will never understand. What is this? What is this show about? EOSIO? No,
I don't know.
Physics, philosophy.
There was a reason I was going with the color theory, and people see what they want to see. I think it had something to do with maximalism.
Well, and that kind of makes sense, right? Because like if you can twist it around to, especially for new people coming in, right? When you get into EOS, you're going to find someone, like if that's sort of your first experience with cryptocurrency. Eventually, you're going to see somebody on Twitter who says EOS is going to be the Ethereum killer because X, right? So that's like I'm pointing at something and I'm calling it Ethereum killer.
And I remember where I was going with it.
Okay,
we were talking about Bitcoin, and we were talking about how there's not enough Bitcoin in the world for 42 millionaires that each own one Bitcoin,
right?
And so the whole reason I started with that color story was I wanted to say, like, it in my mind it's kind of the same thing. Now, I actually don't think that my theory on colors is correct. I think that most people see the same colors unless you're colorblind.
Right. There is physiological reasons why you would see colors in a different way or be colorblind. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the case. I think you see black, I see black. Grandma down the street sees black. We all see black, right? Like,
okay, okay.
Yeah. Like, but like from a philosophical perspective or from a logical perspective, it is possible, right? I don't honestly believe it, and it's the same thing with Bitcoin with me, right? Like, I don't honestly believe that a bunch of billionaires or millionaires would come into the space and say, "Oh, there's not enough Bitcoin for all of us to have one, so we're going to buy EOS." I don't honestly believe that Bitcoin's going to lose out because of that argument. Right? Like, they're the standard. They're there. I do believe in Bitcoin. I do believe in what Bitcoin brought to the world. But what I'm saying is, when you come into Twitter or when you come into the social space, and you see all of these people on Twitter or, Chirp or wherever they post, because there's a lot of them, about my cryptocurrencies going to the moon. This is what we went through in 2017. I mean, I'm shitting on a shit ton of, because essentially I'm shitting on a shit ton of projects that I will never get my money back.
Yeah, and that's like, I guess for me, what I want to leave people with, and I hope that people really internalize in this space, is that investing in this space is, I believe, mandatory for the long term. Investing in this space is like missing Amazon at $3.73 in 1994, 95, or 97, or whatever fucking year that was, right? Or after the dot-com bust, like 2001, 2002. Like Amazon is like amortized over the splits, like what, 3,000 now? Like it's 1,000x over 20 years. And there will be things in this space that are better. The thing is, like, you can't afford to be a maximalist. Let me repeat that. You cannot afford to be a maximalist because you don't know. Like Bitcoin is an amazing, beautiful, ground, earth-shattering, transformative technology. It really is. So is DOS. You know how many things run on DOS now? Fucking none. Right? Literally none. And so, the millionaires that are out there, it's like 1997, and you're like, hey, do we invest all of our money in DOS because there's only so much DOS to go around? No, they don't give a fuck. Why would they bother? And that, don't get me wrong, like some people are, I think the price of Bitcoin is still going to go up. Doesn't matter what I say about that. Like as far as like the near term, there is no Bitcoin killer that currently exists because it has the story. It has the momentum to be that solution for people that want to hedge against the dollar. And I think it's still brilliant that way. I just think like to think that something better won't come along very quickly is irresponsible. So putting all your money in Bitcoin is increasing your risk exponentially because you don't know and nobody else does either.
Well, and again, this is not financial advice, but I think a disclaimer on what you said is very necessary because I don't know if I agree with that. And I think that like there's two sides to this coin, right? Side number one is that you are coming into this space and you want to invest, you want to have a foot in the door, and you want to expose yourself to, like you said, the tech boom of what happened in the late 90s, Mm-hmm. Number two is you're coming into this space to make money. Well, if you're coming into this space to make money and you're not able to make money in traditional markets, then you're not going to make money in here.
It's true. And getting a basic education. Yeah, no, you're right.
You might get lucky, right? You might buy something and hold it for 10 years. You might pick that 1 in 50, like what you were talking about. But just because you're buying cryptocurrency doesn't mean you're going to make money, right? I mean, like, just because you're buying any stock doesn't mean you're going to make money, right?
It's true. Any single thing. This is why, and I've been talking to a few people about this, and this conversation is making me want to do it even more. The space needs index funds. To allow people to basically, hard code in the multi-bucket approach.
There is one already.
Yeah, no, I know, but I want to run and own one so that we can sell the shit out of it.
Not financial advice, but I want to be your broker.
No, I don't want to be a broker. Like I just want it. And this is all doable with smart contracts, right? Like I've got a basic top 10 algorithm based on market cap, and they're easy to do. There's going to be a lot of them, right? But there's like 18 gazillion index funds in the normal markets, as there should be, right? And it's to give people exposure to whole sectors in a way that circumvents their own stupidity, right? And this is coming from like that. When I say stupidity, I mean like I had to learn how to trade too, like that. And there was a lot of stupidity from me.
I'm a horrible trader. Just for everyone listening, I'm an absolute horrible trader. So yesterday I had some USDT sitting in an account yesterday, and yesterday I looked at the charts and I thought, I'm just going to let it come back down a couple $100 and then I'll buy. And what happened yesterday night? Like a few $100 up,
Yeah.
Bitcoin. So it's kind of like, but are you familiar with FTX at all?
No. So
FTX did something interesting, which I think is, they have a shitcoin index.
Really?
They have a shitcoin index, and the shitcoin index is exactly what you're talking about. It's a bucket of currency that you can buy into that is balanced against Bitcoin, essentially.
Oh, like an altcoin hedge against Bitcoin? That's smart.
Yeah, and so it tracks the altcoin market cap as a whole against Bitcoin, as opposed to like buying one currency and hoping it goes up, right?
Oh damn, they have like 10x leverage. Good talk. All right.
FTX, those guys are really on their game. Like they're dropping new coins onto that market, like onto that platform a lot, right? Like they really know their shit. They're amazing. In my opinion, they're like the trading exchange of Binance, essentially, right?
Oh man, sorry, I just got dragged into charts. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, no,
you dragged into the shitcoin index?
No, I didn't. I didn't find the index. Also, did they name it shitcoin index? Please say yes.
No, it's called the shitcoin index. It's a shit.
God, that's so good.
It's so good.
Google that.
Yeah, that's why it's so good. It's called.
I'm all about it. Shitcoin futures. That's great.
So I think this is one of the first things that we need to
3x long shitcoin index token.
Yeah,
called bullshit. I love these people.
Yeah, it's great. It's for traders. It's a great.
Man. Speaking of which, bullshit is about to break the fuck out on a cup and I'm not even kidding right now. Hold on. And this is to anyone who knows what a cup and handle is. This is a 5-minute chart. I get all excited.
No, yeah, you can't get excited about a 5-minute chart, man.
Yeah. Getting excited about a 5-minute chart is really stupid.
Well, I mean, getting excited about a 5-minute chart is okay if you're a trader, but getting excited about a 5-minute chart if you're an investor is really the wrong move.
It's not good. It's just want to call myself out there a little bit. It is, however, so this is bullshit. It is a 3x long shitcoin index token, ERC20 token, which seeks a return that corresponds to 3 times daily. So this is like, if you're in normal markets, you could buy assets that are correlated to 3x the Dow or the NASDAQ or whatever, right? And so this is sitting right to me. Like this looks interesting to me because it's sitting right on the floor. Bitcoin is skyrocketing. Sooner or later, alt season comes after it, right?
So I think that's a really interesting, thing to maybe finish up with.
Today. I think you're right. Buy bullshit. That's my, and honestly, like, this isn't financial. Fuck that. This is financial advice. Buy bullshit. Now, granted, like, don't take advice from guitar players, and that was my primary job for a long time. But I mean, and everything comes down to risk analysis, right? Could this drop through the floor? Of course it could. But is it likely statistically? Kind of no. Which I find highly entertaining.
Yeah, so you're bringing up all of my sore points just in that one sentence, realistically speaking.
Go on.
I think it was Colin Talks Crypto came out the other day and said that he expects Bitcoin to reach $1 million. And
I mean, someday maybe. It's not impossible.
Well, I had a really serious issue, and I actually, I rarely step over the line with my personal Twitter account, but I like him. I've had good conversations with him in the past, but I basically said, I said, for me, this is an issue because, like, I don't really care whether Bitcoin is worth $1 million in 5 years if a loaf of bread costs me 5,000. Right. And I didn't say that directly, but I said it really depends on what the $1 million can buy me, right? And I mean,
yeah, what's its comparative value to real world staples? Yeah,
and I think it's the same thing. Like EOSIO, we need a shitcoin index. Like, there's so many projects on EOS. Sorry, not EOSIO. There's so many projects on EOS. We need a shitcoin index. I mean,
honestly, like I need to, because I was talking to Brad about this before, because I agree, right? Like top 10, a top 10 that maybe, and things change fast in this space. So like ordinarily in the big market cap space, I like to turn things over and rebalance every 3 months. But I think rebalancing every month would be interesting. And again, like over the last year, you would still have lost money on that pretty dramatically.
Like, I don't think it's a bad idea for Chirp to be on EOS. I don't think it's a bad idea.
I don't either. And the thing is, like, we may never mint coins on a blockchain.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. And again, like, because I think, especially now, we could have, 1,000 projects across multiple blockchains, all of the blockchains, competing to have equivalent dust mines, so that basically social activity gets amortized into the distribution of their token. Because no matter what people say, like, again, if you're in Telos, the number of active wallets and the number of transactions is directly going to be related to the cost. I will put money on that.
Well, right? And what is currency realistically, except for trading one form of work for another? Right. Essentially, currency is trading one form of work for another. You go, you work in a factory, you work in a business office.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid proportionally for your status and not for the work that you do, obviously. Look at the world and the that we exist in. And then you go to a restaurant and you pay someone else for their work to get a meal, right? So why not? This is what I kind of like about Dust personally. Why not incentivize? So I have issues with speculative investors and the whole business realm. And going back to what you said, about Kurt's perspective earlier, I don't disagree. I mean, the majority of the people in the West, in the first world nations these days, they don't do anything and they get a paycheck for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say majority, but I mean, people that are involved in capital markets, that's exactly the way it is.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Thank you for putting me in my place there. I needed to be put in my place, because maybe my analysis is a little bit biased, because the majority of people who live in this country work in offices and don't do anything for the salary that they get. And my favorite people in this country are like people who, started their own restaurant or started their own, little clothing shop. Those are my favorite areas to go and see, like, those entrepreneurs and those investors. But if I actually think about it, America, the strong point of the United States is the fact that it is still to this day a country of entrepreneurs. There's so many small family-run businesses in that country that it's ludicrous.
Yep.
So it drives me nuts when I see the government printing money like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the serve. It really is just to serve Wall Street. It'd be one thing if they were printing money and running it as a UBI. All of the rich people would still get richer.
I'm not sure if I agree with UBI, but I do agree with that statement. Yes.
Yeah, we can have long conversations about UBI. But that's the thing. At least as a function of it being better than just dumping it on Wall Street, so that when it inevitably corrects, as all markets eventually do, it's going to correct way deeper. It's going to be insane. Because like the amount of hot air in the system right now compared to 2008, 2009, it's much, much worse. It's much worse. Because this is not based on P&E values. Go to like any Wall Street firm, whatever. Warren Buffett's talking about it. Ray Dalio's talking about it. It has completely decoupled from actual valuations of companies. It's just speculative now.
I'm not sure. I don't disagree with that, but I can't agree with that. I think that the hype in the regular markets right now is way worse than it ever was in the
That's what I'm saying.
market of 2017. It's ridiculous. Like,
it is. It's funded. People were all pissed off because like they were printing Tether and pumping it into the markets, which I find hilarious because like if they can do it, why can't we? But that's all this is, right? They're just creating real world USD, not Tether, and dumping it into markets to shore them up. And that's it. And so number go up, everyone happy, right? But the second that some real black swan comes in, which happens all the time, it's normal in markets. Like a 30% correction is not crazy. You can just go back and look at the historical analysis of all this. It's like an 80% correction in Bitcoin, completely normal. It's happened 4 other times. Just pull your panties up, you're going to be fine, right? But like now, instead of 30%, it's going to be like we could very, very easily see an 80% drop in the normal, real world Wall Street markets because they've injected so much hot air into it. And by hot air, I mean like just throwing money at actual stocks or buying off shitty debt or and.
And this is where I actually do have to give Block One and EOS in general credit, is because Block One's sitting on a coffer of how many $1 billion? I forget, but
it's like 3 or 4.
But yeah, 4 point something, I think. But it's all sitting there. It hasn't moved. Money has been paid out for the legal side, to settle the whole ICO claims and things.
If I'm not mistaken, it was like 0.06% of their raise. It was just astronomically small.
And I mean, one of the big problems with the community that the community has is that Block One's just sitting all of these funds and they're not doing anything with them. Well, we don't really know what deal was brokered in the background with the SEC.
That's true.
I mean, maybe part of the reason they're sitting on shit is because they were told that they weren't allowed to do something for a certain period of time. They weren't allowed to invest like holistically in their own project. Maybe I'm being very forgiving here. But
it's possible. It's not crazy, right?
Maybe part of the reason is that, like, if they invest only in EOSIO infrastructure, then they're only supporting their own company, so they're breaking some rule and regulation. So they've got to throw a bone to the Ethereum and other places in the space, right? We don't.
Yeah, we have no idea. That's like real close to conspiracy theory. I think it is important to say though that we don't know.
Can you imagine in 5 years though, if it comes out that's the right theory and that was our first episode? That's awesome.
Yeah,
PR for us.
Right?
You haven't been listening to us for 5 years.
Right? You think we were cool now? We had 2 people watching us, and JimmyD just nailed it. So, all right.
But I think sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just getting you finish your thought. I think we can wrap this up and call this one successful and start channel. We were supposed to come up with a name, which we didn't do. ChirpCast Weekly EOSIO Update with JimmyD.
I was watching the clock when it passed an hour, and then you were really into it at that point, I think, and then we got to an hour and 10 minutes, and I thought, screw it, let's just go to let's just go to an hour and 30 and see what happens. And apparently that's too long because my beautiful wife just brought me a glass of water, so apparently I need that.
Please give her a high five for me. She's super smart.
You just got the really bad look because she hates high fives.
Oh, what? Elbow bumps?
No, man. I'm in the same boat.
Winks.
I hate high fives as well.
Okay.
But,
all right. Well, whatever your family's equivalent of a high five is, I will appropriate that.
Well, whenever you meet us, just give us a hug. We're huggers.
Okay. All right. I like it. That's definitely better. Not necessarily in COVID times, but this has to end at some point. And then we'll definitely get on that.
That's what I like about doing this with you is we don't talk about COVID, and that's great. I love.
I'm sorry I brought it up because you're totally right. Especially in the States here, it's about to get much, 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 much worse.
I think it's about to get worse everywhere, but
it could.
We just need to fix the shit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just fix the shit.
So I think, yeah. So I don't know what to do because I want to create this Chirp channel where people can interact with us.
Yep.
So maybe, what do you think? Do we call it EOSIO Weekly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the simplest thing is usually the right thing, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of you said it earlier, so I like the idea of EOSIO Weekly because even if we decide to call the show something else or go a different direction with the show, people can still post in that channel.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And seriously, and we could just tell the entire community when you see any EOSIO projects or news or updates or whatever, bring it to that channel. And maybe we can even incentivize it. If we use any of the links on your show, not only can we tip you huge in coins, but I could tip you a decent sized little chunk of dust and Shipple and anything else we get our hands on.
Yeah, and also please tell us what you think about this. Like, I'm really happy about this first episode because you rambled way more than me, and that's just not possible.
Yeah, rants happen.
No, but it's good, and I would like to but I think maybe what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to come up with a timeline, and my idea is like the first hour of the show was killer. So maybe if we ramble more than an hour, it's not good. I mean,
let's maybe leave that open to the community. Like,
that's kind of what I'm saying. Like,
okay,
if you like, what's a good length? Like, what's a good period of time that you would actually sit and listen to us? I mean,
well, then we do want to make it snappy, right? Like, I think we have the channel. We're gonna have headlines. We're gonna have some specific things to talk about. I always want to leave it open to kind of go wherever the conversation takes us, right? Like I want to lean into the long form thing, but having it so, and maybe even in the first sort of half hour or even the first 5 minutes, we can go through every single one of the headlines and just, if people want to, if they only have 5 or 10 minutes, they're going to get an update that's going to be like, holy crap, this is kind of what's going on, and give people an idea of what we're going to go. So like just do like super quick snippets for the first 10 minutes, and then just go back each one, revisit them, and see if there's anything that we want to kind of unpack or explore.
I'm going to stamp that with the JimmyD sign of approval. No, I really like that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go through all the headlines and then we'll do a deep dive. That's great.
Cool beans. All right. Well, I've had a bunch of coffee, so I'm going to emergently end this episode. Jimmy, thank you very much for agreeing to do this with me. I think it's going to be super fun. And if you're not on Chirp yet, what the hell's wrong with you? Go to chirp.la, sign up, and within the next couple of hours, look for hashtag EOSIO Weekly, which will be the new channel that Jimmy's going to start and own. And then ask us how you can start your own channel and get paid every time somebody posts.
Yeah, and we're going to be back next week at almost the same time. I guess we're going to be back next week at 9 o'clock a.m. on Thursday EST, Eastern Standard Time.
Done. And we'll be doing that weekly. You can set an alarm and be like, I want to learn everything about EOSIO this week.
And you can come and heckle us in the chats because the best thing about like people heckling us in the chats is like, if you've ever been to a comedy club and like people heckle you in the comedy club, it kind of throws the comedian off their game. But if people heckle us in the chats and we think it's funny, we can report it. But
we can report it. We can post it up here, which is fun, and then we can get kicked off Facebook.
But if we don't think it's funny, we can just ignore it. It's awesome.
This is true. Yeah, our entire hashtag coffee morning show, I would say, like, because we do some show prep, but we don't need to. But we just come in and the community around that show now is just bringing stuff to us constantly, and we can just have a chat as a community, which I really love, and I aspire to make that happen for this community as well. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and I think we want to hear what people have to say. I think let's end on this. My greatest joy in life as a philosopher and a historian is being proven wrong.
Amen. Dude, I could count on my arms the number of people that have that as a core principle, and I absolutely share it. I absolutely categorically love being proven wrong.
Yeah, because if you're proven wrong, you learn shit.
That's exactly it. Dude, if we weren't fucking going to be best friends before, we are now. So that's fun. All right, cheers, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cheers. Please hug your wife. For you and me, and no high fives, because that high fives are bullshit.